This episode of the Aaron Cohen Show brought to you by the Cherry's Deep Concealment Holster. Same holster I trained Keanu on for the John Wick franchise. This thing runs below the waistband, completely minimal, never going to fall off you, fits all double stack 9 and 40 Glocks. Zero digging into your gut because of where it rides below the waistband. There's a bit of a lead time on these, but trust me, they're worth the wait. Go to cherryscounterterror.com and finally carry with comfort and concealment. Grab yourself one of these bad boys right here. The most comfortable appendix inside the waistband holster on the market. Go to cherryscounterterror.com and grab yourself one of these holsters. Today I'm going to be talking about the war that everyone knows is happening, but most people just can't wrap their minds around how it's being fought. And I thought it was important to do an episode on this one. It's not a war with guns and rockets. This is the war of lies. Shakranim, like we say in Hebrew. This is the war of information. And it's one that Hamas has been winning with devastating consequences. Now, this isn't just about bias or bad journalism. This is about propaganda weaponized to turn military defeats into global sympathy, to isolate Israel diplomatically, and to endanger Jewish communities worldwide. And Hamas doesn't just have rockets. They have a narrative. And they've enlisted some willing accomplices in the media to help spread it. And today, I'm going to break down how this propaganda machine works, how the media has been completely complicit, and how the lies fueling the war have spiked anti-Semitism across the globe. But most importantly, I will give you the tools to help fight back. Now let's start with a confession. Literally, Israeli intelligence recently interrogated Islamic Jihad spokesman Tariq Salami. And what he revealed is probably going to send some shockwaves through every newsroom in the West, and it should. According to Salami, Hamas and Islamic Jihad didn't just control the battlefield, they controlled the narrative. He admitted that Hamas sets explicit terms for how international media must report on this conflict. For example, when their own rockets misfire and kill civilians in Gaza, the media is instructed to blame Israel. And when Hamas uses hospitals, schools, ambulances as shields for their terrorist fighters, they expect the media to report any Israeli response as a war crime. This isn't just propaganda. This is an actual strategy. And let me give you a concrete example. Have a look.
نموذج لإشي زي هذه اللي صار اللي انت ذكره.
نموذج زي اللي صار مثلا لما صار في بداية الحرب هاي. بداية الحرب مش وقعت المعملين صاروخ.
اوكي.
هو صاروخ محلي وقالوا انه اسرائيلي.
اللي انفجر يعني ان جاري كانوا يطلقوه.
ايوه.
وانفجر. بالبداية انا ذاكر. اوكي. هذا امر
عشان نمحي الرواية. الحركة عملت رواية معينة. لا هذا من عند الاحتلال. والاستهداف كان بشكل مباشر وهناك تصوير وهناك زاوية واستندوا على أكثر من رواية من بعض الروايات الأجنبية الصحف الأجنبية.
أوكي وبعدين وزعوها لكل الدنيا. أوكي.
This is the infamous Alma Madani hospital explosion. And when the story first broke, major outlets parroted Hamas's claim that Israel bombed the hospital, killing hundreds. The truth: the explosion was caused by a misfired Islamic Jihad rocket, but by the time the corrections were issued, the damage was already done. Protests erupted worldwide. Jewish communities started to get targeted, and the lies spread faster than anyone could control the truth. And this isn't just about what Hamas says. It's about what the media does with it. And when journalists, for instance, like Piers Morgan, gives a platform to anti-Semites and terror sympathizers, they're not engaging in propaganda themselves, but they're still helping Hamas win the information war. Why? Because the very act of platforming these voices legitimizes their perspective, even if it's so-called challenged. But here's the problem. When Morgan brings on individuals who defend or justify Hamas, he's amplifying their propaganda to a massive global audience. Pierce just celebrated his 3.5 million subs on YouTube. Sure, he challenges them to some degree, but the damage is already done. And the message Hamas wants out is already being heard, debated, normalized, and on one of the biggest platforms in the world. Pierce is very proud of that as he gallivants with celebrities, filling up his social media with his star-studded celebrity life. Hamas doesn't just need Morgan to agree with them. They just need him to spread their narrative under the guise of presenting both sides. And Morgan isn't alone. Let me be clear about that. This happens across all Western media where outlets, in their rush to appear balanced, end up serving as unwitting accomplices to Hamas's propaganda machine. This isn't accidental. It's a dangerous cycle. Emotional headlines drive clicks. That's the way this works. Clicks drive revenue, and truth becomes an afterthought. And the consequences: protests turn violent, synagogues are vandalized, Jewish students are harassed on college campuses. The media's failures have real-world consequences, and those costs are borne by innocent people. Now, Hamas doesn't just use propaganda to shift global opinion. They integrate it into every stage of their military strategy. When they hide weapons and fighters in schools, mosques, hospitals, it's not just to avoid detection. It's to ensure that any Israeli response can be weaponized in the media as a war crime. Think about the Al-Madani hospital explosion. Hamas's first move wasn't to investigate the cause. It was to immediately accuse Israel, knowing that every media outlet would run with the story. Why? Because they've created a playbook. Provoke Israel, create chaos, and rely on the media to spread the narrative before the truth has a chance to catch up. Hey, if you guys are a fan of my work, do me a favor, help support the show. Hit the link down in the description and grab yourself a mini sponsorship package. They start at about $25. Join my season 1 sponsorship team by supporting the show. Helps keep the lights on in the studio as I continue to combat that anti-Israel misinformation. Hit the link down in the description and grab yourself a mini sponsorship kit. Appreciate you guys. And let's not forget how they exploit their own civilians. When they fire rockets from densely populated areas, which we've all seen for the last 13, 14 months, or store weapons in residential buildings, they're deliberately endangering their own people. Why? Because every civilian casualty becomes a headline. Every tragedy becomes a tool to delegitimize Israel. This isn't collateral damage. This is a natural, tactical, thought-out strategy, and it's calculated as any battlefield maneuver. Because this is the only way they can fight is by playing into that victimhood. They built their entire existence on victimhood. Social media isn't just a battleground for public opinion. It's a force multiplier for Hamas propaganda. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram don't just amplify the misinformation, they actually reward it. And the more sensational, the more outrageous the content, the more the algorithm pushes it to the top of everybody's feed. Think about how quickly the false narrative around the Al-Madani hospital spread. Within hours, millions of users had seen posts blaming Israel for bombing the hospital. Corrections, when they finally did come, were buried under a monster tidal wave of outrage and disinformation. But there's one platform that's been different in this conflict, and that's X, formerly Twitter. And unlike the heavily curated, algorithm-driven feeds of TikTok and Instagram, X allows more uncensored, user-driven content. Salute to Elon. And that's been a game changer. On X, users can challenge misinformation directly and post real-time corrections and amplify voices that are countering that propaganda machine. This uncensored and open structure has made X one of the most valuable tools for getting the truth out. And while it still faces challenges with bots and some disinformation, the platform's ability to elevate user-driven content has made it the good guy of the group. And it's a reminder of how transparency and freedom of speech can be really powerful weapons in the fight against propaganda. Now, the way the media weaponized narratives, for example, against Trump is eerily similar to the tactics that Hamas uses against Israel. It's not really about reporting the truth. It was about controlling the narrative and shaping public perception. Let me break it down for you. Joe Rogan called it a psyop recently on his podcast, and I agree with him. And just like Hamas relies on spreading false claims, the media repeatedly amplified unverified or misleading stories about Trump. Take the Steele dossier or the Russian collusion narrative. These stories dominated the headlines for months. By the time these claims were debunked, the damage was already done. Sound familiar? That's the same playbook Hamas uses when it blames Israel for tragedies like the Al-Madani hospital explosion. But here's the kicker. America saw through the lies. Voters rejected the propaganda and elected Trump because they recognized how the media was manipulating them. And just like the truth prevailed there, I believe it will prevail here. Hamas's lies may dominate for a while, but eventually the world will see through their narrative as well. And I think it's already starting to. And this isn't just about Trump or Israel. This is about the universal power of truth. And lies may win the moment, but truth wins the war. And we need to make sure that that's the case here. When the media amplifies Hamas's lies, it doesn't just hurt Israel. It endangers Jewish communities worldwide. And here's the bottom line. This isn't just a war over rockets or borders. It's a war over reality. And Hamas has mastered the art of propaganda. And they've weaponized the media against Israel and the Jewish people worldwide. But we don't have to accept their narrative. And it's time to fight back with facts, with continued action, and with unwavering support for the truth. Do me a favor, share this episode, speak up against the lies, and join me as I continue to combat that anti-Israel misinformation garbage. Because the real war isn't just on the battlefield. It's in the minds of the people around the world. And that's part of what I'm here to do. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you have any suggestions or opinions I want to hear about it, drop a comment down below. I'm Aaron Cohen. You're watching The Aaron Cohen Show. This episode's sponsored by the Cherry's Deep Concealment Holster. Same holster I trained Keanu on for the John Wick franchise. Runs below the waistband. Super comfortable. Lightning fast draw with just a little bit of training. This thing's never going to fall off you. Go to cherriescounterterror.com. There's a bit of a lead time right now due to demand, but trust me, this thing is worth it. Grab yourself one of these bad boys. I'm Aaron Cohen. You're watching The Aaron Cohen Show, and I will catch you on the next one.